lovers. I'm Ashley,
And I'm Kendall, and welcome to Bound by Fantasy.
a channel all about books and bookish things.
Today we're going to talk about part two of Assistant to the Villain. So if you haven't gone and watched part one, please go back, watch it because you're not going to know what's going on, and come back here to listen to the second part.
Yes.
Here we go. All right, so we cut to Evie and she's kind of like in home bed. She's miserable. Her sister is at least concerned for a little bit that she has the mystical illness, right? She's like kind of freaking out, which she probably has some PTSD because her mom is gone and dad has the illness, and the only one she has left is Evie, right?
Right.
And but Evie reassures her it's not that, and she goes to school. And when Lissa is at school, her father and her kind of like have a heart to heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they discuss and the brother. And this is when we get her background story finally, right?
Yes.
And after Lissa was born, her mother developed a magic that's called Starshine. And it kind of like devoured the mom from the inside out. She couldn't control it. So it was kind of like breaking her down in a sense. So one
Mm-hmm.
day she's out taking the children for a walk, and their older brother is out and she's there, and the baby's is with the mom. And for some reason, I thought this was weird. She just like tosses a ball of starshine to Evie's brother to catch, right?
Right?
Um, but instead it like completely like burns him and he just disappears and he's just poof gone.
Yeah.
And Evie kind of turns around and it's just Lissa there on the ground. Like mom is also gone. Like they just have both disappeared out of her lives. The mom probably couldn't handle what she just did to her son and left, but she kind of put her other two children in a terrible situation. And it was just
Right.
like, it kind of sounded like mom had like a mental break, right?
Yeah.
And just like killed her son. That was the tipping point. She's gone. But
Yeah.
it gives like more of an insight of why she feels like she had to, I guess, protect her sister so much because she
Mm-hmm.
never got what she got. She never got a mom for any point of her life. She was just a teeny tiny baby when it all happened. It's a really, it's a really sad background.
It
Um,
is, yeah.
and after this scene, it's again Tristan being like miserable and he's about to like murder someone, like he's going back to his old ways. And in walks Evie, right? And I'm just like, I don't know why. A part of me was like, girl, don't go back. Like, he needs to come to you. He needs
Yes.
to like apologize, grovel
No,
at
I
your
felt the
feet.
same way. I couldn't believe she went back to him and that he didn't go like because it seemed like he was gonna go like ask her to come back and then he doesn't. And I was very
Yes.
frustrated by that. Yeah, I totally wanted him to go and like get her to come back.
Yes, to like apologize and to be like, yeah, I messed up. Like, take
Right.
me back, like work for me again. And she's the one that go, I don't know. I was just really bothered. He does apologize to her, which like shocks her because he doesn't like apologize, you know. He's
Right.
like the villain, like what happened has happened and he's not going to apologize. And it's just, I don't know. I was just still shocked. I was like, no, girl, I don't think you should have done that. You, you shouldn't have gone back. It just
Yes.
bothered me a little bit.
Yep. No, I completely agree. I was really frustrated. I was super frustrated. It made sense why she went back because she thought she was going to die if she didn't. Like, because she thought the like gold band that she had, like the tattoo she had, that was like, it was going to kill her. And she's like, I can't be selfish and like abandon my dad and my sister essentially. So, like, that made
Right.
sense to me why she went back. But I, yeah, it frustrated me why he didn't go to her. I was like, why you like realized how important she was. Like nothing's functioning in the manor at all, right? Like you
Right.
realize that you were wrong and you're still not gonna like I was glad he did apologize, but I'm like, why didn't you just go get her? So I was
Correct.
very frustrated. Yeah.
I agree. But I mean, I guess because he apologizes and she's so shocked by that, we learn out one of his little quirks, and it was like, well, it's not like I'm confessing something silly like using the nightlight. And she's like, wait, you're afraid
Yes.
of the dark? You're the villain. How are you afraid of the dark? And I
Yes,
just thought
I
that
love
was
that.
like cute, being cute. And I was like, yep, that sounds about right. This big bad villain needs a nightlight to sleep at night.
Right? I love his reaction too of just like, I'm not afraid of the dark. I just don't particularly like it. Like, you know,
I
he's
agree.
just, I don't know, kind of trying to play it off that like, yeah, he's still like the villain or whatever.
I just love it. So then it kind of like everything goes back to normal, right? It
Hmm.
is just Sue's failing. She fixes all of the messes. Even Becky starts being like slightly nasty to her again. Like, so solidified, it's back to normal. And Blade comes in to try to talk to Evie and Tatiana one day about the dragon and how he's progressed. Like, because they're trying to make him breathe fire, to fly, to like be typical dragon things, right? Because
Right.
again, the last time we interacted with he was afraid of a mouse. So we needed to like he's like wanting to redeem him almost in a sense.
Yeah. So I love that Evie comes up with the idea of you need to give him a name. Like things like need a name to like feel like they understand who they are. And back when like Tristan had told her sister what his name was, I thought this was like super hilarious that he's like, "What did you think my name was?" And she's like, "Thought it was something like Fluffy." And I'm like, "She get that. She get the name." Yeah, that makes
Yep,
all the sense in the world to call a villain Fluffy, right? Like, I don't know. So
I
then that's the
agree.
name that she suggests for the dragon. Um, because, you know, Blade asked, what do you think the name should be? And I'm like, do you just like to call everything that's big and scary like Fluffy? Like, I don't know. I just thought it was really funny.
And I think it's funny, like Tristan's reaction to that too, because like he knows like what it's from, right?
Yeah.
So like it makes it even more hysterical. But like it works in the end, right? By giving Fluffy his name, he ends up being like a better dragon.
Yep.
And that is a good thing because they're able to remove his chains. And when they remove the change, though, they find the message, right? That was written on the inside, and it was the villain will fall.
Hmm.
And Edie tells them that the chains that they've had those chains since their first week of working there. So they've been with the villain for a really long time. And it's kind of like gives them all a bad vibe, right?
Yeah.
That King Benedict knew Blade was going to go work for the villain and take the dragon with him. So it
Hmm.
was kind of like almost like a setup in a way.
Yes.
Like Blade is the traitor, but he almost was a setup or like a way to like weaken Tristan because
Right.
the king kind of like showed his hand, like, I know that you have Blade, I know you have a dragon, and like here is my proof kind of thing.
Right.
So it was just like, oh, okay, like I feel like at that point I was like, it's about to get real.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Well, and it just seemed like, I don't know, I felt like Blade was like, even though he wasn't the traitor necessarily, that he was like a pawn and that like he was unaware that like he was kind of a pawn in the king's plan too.
Right. And I find it interesting because they're obviously going to like figure out the chain situation. So they have to go to the blacksmith in the village, right?
Right,
And she's going to go do it. And Tristan just like is in the village. And she's just so floored by this. But it almost isn't surprising to me because, again, the posters are not right about him. They make him seem
right,
like this really old sorcerer or like just pictures that aren't even close to him. So he's like, why would I be worried? And she's like
right.
freaking out for him. And it just kind of makes sense. But then you see kind of like Evie kind of freaking out, right?
Hmm.
Because he says like I want to go see the blacksmith. Can you introduce me? Because his mark is on the dragon chains, so he was involved with the message. And that's when like you kind of see her like kind of fluster a little bit, right?
Hmm.
Because then we know that this is her old boss and the one she escaped from at the beginning, who happened to like was like kind of like sexually harassing her and like wanted to like sleep with her and not like consensual. And that's where she gets the injure in his blade. So she's afraid to go back. And I don't blame her.
Right.
Like she's afraid to go back because she's angry, but she's also like, in a sense, like does kind of have like a little bit of a scare from him, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But she doesn't tell Tristan this, right? I still think this is
Right.
weird. Like we find out all about this, but she doesn't tell Tristan. So she like goes to the blacksmith and she's just gonna like go in there and the blacksmith says, lets them in on a little secret. And he goes, oh, you gotta give me coins. And he said he made the king the chains for the agent of the king to send a message to the villain. Like he's thinking he's like this big bad tough guy, like, haha, I know
Yeah.
this secret. And like, oh, it was made for the villain. And when they asked who ordered the chains, the blacksmith can only tell them that he wore the king's symbol on the mask. So again, we still don't know where we're going with this. So we just know that it was a king's person and it was commissioned by the king, but we also don't know if the blacksmith is being truthful, right? We
Right.
don't know because we know he's not a nice guy for what he did to Evie, but
Right.
we don't know. And
Yeah. And I agree with you that like I thought it was so odd that Evie was just so willing to walk in there with Tristan being so unaware of what happened in her history. And also like, why did she have to go? You know what I mean? Like what I don't understand why she needed to be there for that part either.
right,
Um, it's kind of like when she went to the like tavern with his brother, right? Like, why is he having her go everywhere with him? I don't know.
right,
It just felt like that would have been a perfect time for her to not go and to not
correct,
like put herself in the line of fire. But also it seemed really like naive to just walk in there and think like, just walk in here and like nothing bad's gonna happen. Like, I don't know. I was frustrated with her at that point.
right. I do like that she kind of stands up for herself with the blacksmith and says, well, we won't be using your services, right?
Yeah.
And then he gets all mad and goes after Tristan with the blade, the same blade that hurt her, right? And when she goes to try to stop him, Evie gets the unbearable pain where her magic wound is. And
Yep.
we know that something is connected with that. Like her wounds shouldn't, again, should be healing. It shouldn't have this like pain all the time that she feels it. So Tristan obviously knows something's up now. He knows that the Blacksmith did something horrible to Evie and before he came to the assistant. So he goes ultimate villain. He's like, I'm gonna kill him. That's it. We're done. Like, I'm just going to kill him. And part of me, I
Yep.
was like, yes, just do it.
Yeah.
I like Evie stops him and she's like, oh, everyone in town would know and that she was there and was involved, and then they would find out him. And it does stop him, but like in the same aspect, I am just like, protect your girl. Like, get him,
Yeah.
villain.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was kind of, I think like Edie was trying to just protect the villain, honestly, because like she didn't want him to get exposed. But I did think it was kind of odd that she stopped him as well, because like she is clearly okay with him killing people. So like this seems like one of the ultimate people that she would have been maybe okay with. The other people, she has no idea why he's killing them up to this
Right.
point anyway. So I don't know. It seemed kind of odd to me that she like did stop him if she's like okay with what he does for a living. So I
Right.
don't know. I also thought like, why not just let him do it? But yeah, I was a little shocked.
I do think though that if it hadn't been for him not knowing the story, I think he wouldn't have stopped. Like no matter what Evie
Yeah.
had said, like if
Yeah, you're
he
probably right.
knew why Evie didn't like him, like it would have been over.
Yeah.
But the good thing is they get the blade, right? They get the blade from the blacksmith that's causing her magical injury to like give her pain. And he's going to bring it to Tatiana to see if she can break the curse. So that's at least good. But then, like, I thought it was just weird that we go on like a little quest with Tristan, and it's to get this. I don't know how to say the name. I don't know how you pronounce it. Oh, you listen to Audible. What did they call the creature? The Groover? What is that?
Oh, I don't know. I need to see this. I feel like I need to see the spelling of it again. I'm forgetting how they say it.
Guvre. I have it written down. I always just kind of glided
You-
over it when I read them.
I'm blanking. I'm like, I should know because I did listen to the audiobook. Now I'm like, I need to go listen to the audiobook again just for that part, just to hear what it is.
Anyway, so they're trying to
Hoover
get this
or something? Yeah,
special
I'm not sure.
creature. What'd you say?
Hoover or something, or yeah, I'm not sure.
It's all right. I mean, it's fine. He's trying to get it because the king is trying to get it, right? And
Yeah.
he wants to stop from the king from getting it. And he and his malevolent guards get melted from the purple, I guess it breathes like purple foggy breath. And it will like we will definitely it will be so worth it because the traitor will definitely tell the king, right, that he's captured it. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like a trap in a sense that he thinks that if he captures it, whoever's the traitor is immediately going to go tell the king. And that's
Right.
kind of what he wants because there's only going to be a select few that know about it. And then we know immediately who did it. So, sorry. Evie and like she's just kind of like living her life right now, and she still uses an illustration of the villain, and they're like, I like this part when she's in town, and they're like, it's terrible, he's a terrible person, and she's just like laughing on the inside because like these pictures have nothing to do with how he looks,
Right.
and she ends up taking one back, right? And
Yes, I
like,
love that. And
so
she like
she's like,
hangs it up, which I love. I'm like, oh my God, that's so awesome.
I love it. And then she's just like hanging up his wanted poster that's like looks nothing like it. And it just makes me hysterical.
Yeah.
So when the villain arrives again, he like sees the poster and like he has this little bit of like, oh, I love Evie kind of moment. And again, Kingsley holds up a sign that says trouble. And I'm just like, I love him so much. Like, I want a
Yeah.
little Kingsley that like just
Right?
pops up with little signs.
Yeah. Just sort of like adds little things to my life, makes it more interesting. Yeah.
Yes. But good news when Tristan does come back, besides seeing the poster, yeah, he is injured a little bit, but he did capture the beast, right? So that means that King Benedict doesn't have it. And of course, Evie is worried about his injuries. So he goes to Tatiana for help, right? And then they bring up the magical blade. And Tati agrees to help, like, of course. Um, but then all of a sudden, like this huge, massive storm starts. And come to find out that the creature that Tristan kidnapped or like is holding makes these storms, right? So it's going to be
Right.
like a long, treacherous storm. And apparently it's so treacherous that they have to stay, right?
Yeah.
So they have to stay in the manor. And the manor's like preparing for the storm. And Evie goes with Blade and the villain to see this creature. We're just gonna call it the creature because I can't remember say the name. And of course, Evie being her says it's like, oh, it's like a weird looking creature, but it's kind of cute. Like, I
Yeah.
like it.
And she's like super nice to the creature. Yeah.
Yep. And then she's like, I don't know, she talks about like, oh, it kind of looks a little sad. And we need to like rescue the mate's gonna come rescue the trapped companion. And then Evie's like, wait, the mate's gonna come rescue the trapped companion. And so like she's like, this is your plan that the mate's gonna come for this. I don't know how to say it, the creature. What did you think about that? Like that, oh, I trapped it, so the other one comes and gets it.
Right. Yeah, that seemed really dangerous. And like he was just putting everyone at risk by doing that too. Um, yeah, I don't know. I was like, I don't know if this is a good plan to do
Yeah,
that, but also I'm like, does he have to be like, I don't know. He wasn't like torturing the creature, but he like I feel like he could have been treating the creature better for
agreed.
sure. Yeah. Because I'm like, what are you gonna do when the mate gets there? Because they're like unstoppable together. Like he talks
Correct.
about how if they're together, like they can like destroy worlds and stuff. Like they're gonna take everybody out basically. So I'm like, what's the plan when the mate gets here? Like, where are we going with
Correct.
this?
And then the mate does come, right? Because
Hmm.
they're like having like a little party. Actually, Tristan comes in and like goes with them. And but then they hear like the cries and they have to like basically battle this female creature down to the ground and they manage to capture it. And of course, like there's all these quirky little things happening with Tristan and Evie. Again, at some point she like gets her hands burned, right? And tries to hide it. And he gets so mad because he's like, don't try to hide things from me. Like, don't try to hide your pain. I want to help you. And I'm just like, another little thing. Like, he loves her.
No, that's so sweet. Oh, also, I don't know why this made me think of it, but it's Gura is the way you say
There
it.
we go.
Yeah, I
Perfect.
don't know why. As soon as
Perfect.
you said the female one, I was like female Gura. Like for some reason that got me to say it. So yeah,
Perfect.
it's Gura.
So we get them right. And then the storm stops because they're back together. They're happy. Even though they're technically trapped, they're still happy that they're together, right?
Yes.
Um, and Evie spends the night with Tati, who tries to heal her hands, which of course means that Evie has to tell her a story for the payment, right?
Hmm.
And it's just kind of like befitting them the next day, like wearing a magical, like perfect dress, of course. um that Tati gives her because like she doesn't have clothes. And it makes me laugh because she's like she is quirky and funny, but she's not Tati style. And I just all I can picture
Yeah.
her is in like this big, poofy, fluffy dress. And I just like, I
Yeah.
would love to see what it looks like.
Right? That would be really funny. Yeah, very, very different styles for sure.
Right. Um, but then we do find out from Tati the story, kind of like a long story about her childhood, right? When she got her healing magic and her mother stopped caring about her daughter and only cared that she was a healer. And Tati and Claire and Malcolm, they were all friends because they all lived in the same village and they're the only ones that treated her kind of normally, right?
Right.
Um, Tristan was there, but he wasn't like their group. Like they all cared about him, but because of what was going on with him, he kind of was always still a little bit on the outskirts. But
Hmm.
I think he was labeled kind of like the most loyal. Did you get that kind of vibe from her story too?
Yeah, I think so. Well, and they have like a party, right? Like she tells
Hmm.
about the party that they have that her mom basically just wants to like expose the fact that she has this magic and like really just wants to use her and essentially
Correct.
like say like okay well you're gonna go work for the king and you're gonna you're gonna use your magic and they're gonna really just use her powers. And Tristan steps in and helps her and offers her a
Right.
job.
Right. And that's when her and Claire go kind of on the outskirts, right? Because
Yeah.
Claire couldn't forgive her brother by becoming the villain, right?
Hmm.
And Tati knows that even though he's doing bad things, he's doing them for a purpose. And that's why
Right.
he chooses his side. And that kind of bothers me in the sense that Tati could see it, but Claire couldn't.
Yes.
And I almost like, did Tatiana even have, did she try to explain it to Claire? Or was it too big of a secret of why he's doing this to even tell Claire? I just thought it was weird that they like just broke up. And like, I feel like neither of them heard each other out.
Yeah, I don't think they went into very much detail about that at all. Like as far as it talks about how they like were together and she was very in love with Claire. And then yeah, when she sort of sided with Tristan, like it just sort of ended. Um, and Claire couldn't like forgive her for that. And yeah, I don't know that they really like talked about it very much either. Um, I don't remember that being like, but also like we're hearing this from Tatiana's perspective too. And this is the first time she's ever opened up to Evie. So I wonder if like maybe there was more to the story. We just didn't necessarily hear about it too.
Right. Right. Um, so when Evie decides to go home, right, and go to sleep, and the villain again offers to take her in his carriage, right? He tells
Hmm.
her that he's given everyone the day off the next day, except for her, of course, because you know what I
Right.
mean, they need to explore, they need to find the traitor. Like it's getting worse, things are getting bad. They need to figure out who's betraying them. Um, there's also that missing map that she mentioned to him, and they don't understand how this traitor is doing the things that they're doing.
Hmm.
So he takes her in the carriage. Then they're going to explore the manor from Todd's Bottom to see. It seems though on the way to Evie's that they've spotted the traitor, right?
Hmm.
Because they see someone walking wearing the Valiant Guard mask that they found. And they're like, "Wow, we found them," and they tackle them, and it's Becky, right?
Right.
So I thought Evie's reaction was kind of fun, like that's like her, haha, I got her, but then like she also like doesn't want to be a terrible person, like how could it be possibly Becky?
Right.
Um, so she says she's not the traitor, she's going to use the mask to sneak into the Gleaming City, right? And they're going to try to find, because she was told that there's going to be a cure for the mysterious mystical illness. And Tristan assures her there's not. There's not a cure for the mystical, and he promises there isn't one. And if there was one, he would find it for both Becky and Evie. And that's
Right.
when they find out that both the girls know someone with the illness.
Right.
Hold on. What? So they end up going to the celebration. Evie thinks that they probably should have told the villain, right? Because like the villain says, there's no cure, don't go, like it's not a thing. But they end up going, right?
Right.
Evie said like she goes because even though the villain says it, it's the chance to have a cure. And on her way there, surprise, surprise, she runs into Becky and Blade, right? And
Yep.
they both receive the similar invitations to go to this party, and they would get what they wanted.
Right.
And it's different for both of them, but they know that they're going to see the core healer, right? And
Right. And Evie found the letter, the invitation in her room, and she also was like, "How did someone get into her room as well?"
yes, yes. And that's another reason she wants to go because this person is getting to places that they shouldn't, right?
Right.
So when they get there and they see the core healer, another surprise, it's Tristan's dad. And I'm just like, these random people are that like important people are like
I
just
just
coming up and they're all
right.
related to Tristan.
Right.
Um, so it's Tristan's dad, and he mentions the letter Evie wrote to him telling him that she works for his son and that she wanted to be invited to one of the gatherings, right? So we find out that she did this, that he said that she wrote to him.
Hmm.
And Evie at that point is like, "What are you talking about? I never wrote
Right.
to you. I have no idea that like you existed until right now." like how could I have written about your son to you? And I was like, I knew right then and there, I was like, this is a setup. Like, I don't know about you, but I was like, this is a setup.
Yes, no, so I did, but like I thought maybe Tristan's dad was setting her up. Like he was like lying. I'm like, because I was very confused about this. I'm like, the fact that he was like, oh yeah, you wrote to me. And I'm like, is he trying to like make it so that she'll get in trouble with Tristan? Like that's what my initial thought was like Tristan's dad was trying to like create like divide between Tristan and her. And I don't know, that was what my brain went at least at first. And I was like, why is Tristan's dad like trying to set him up? Like, why does his whole family hate him, first off? But
Correct.
yeah, but also what's going on with that? But then he seemed like genuinely surprised that she didn't know. Like he was like, no, you wrote to me, like, I have a letter from you. So I'm like, okay, maybe he isn't trying to set her up. So I was very like, yeah, what's going on? I definitely there was a setup, but I was not sure who it was. Did you suspect his dad or like what was your initial thought?
I didn't think it was his dad. I thought his dad was like betrayed just like she was, that someone was like playing both sides. And it kind of, I mean, we're right? Because Tristan shows up, he kind of tells her that like they didn't really care about him. His dad was always too busy healing people, and his mom was kind of too involved in that too. And they
Yeah.
changed when they had Claire and Malcolm, right? But at
Mhm.
that point, it was too late for Tristan. And you see that happen sometimes, like parents want to get better for the younger siblings, but at that point, it's too late for the older ones that too much damage has happened. So I kind of feel for him there. But it is a trap because, of course, the male, you're going to have to say the word, what'd you say?
Ura?
Hoorah, there we go.
Yeah.
Um, attacks the party, right? And he's just
Yeah.
flying around, melting people. And like, how did they get out? And
Right.
again, like, what is going on? Someone is definitely a traitor. This party was a setup. It was a setup for them to get them like unlocked and release them. And it just kind of like goes all crazy. They have to recapture it. And they're like, the dad gets injured, right? And the sister's there too, right? Yep, Claire is there.
Yeah.
I forget, I was gonna say she's there. And it's just kind of chaos. And it's just like, I don't know. It bothered me so much that one, it's a trick, but I almost be like, why did it come to that party too? Like,
Right.
how did it escape and then know where to go? So I always
Right.
thought that was interesting. You know what I mean? Why didn't it just like fly somewhere completely out of the way? How did you
Right.
feel about that?
Yeah. Why not just escape? Like,
Right.
why not just like take his mate and leave and go live their lives? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was trying to look for revenge, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't sure either.
Yeah. I didn't understand that. I mean, in the end, like the Valiant Guards like come and like try
Mhm.
to help, and then they have to like spin a story, right? So Evie spins a story trying to get the guards to let them go, and she begins to weep, and typical male behavior that like freaks them out, right? Um, and so she starts doubling down, and she's like, I'm on my period, I'm just upset, and that freaks him out
Yeah,
even more. So she's able to get her and Tristan out of there. Because she talks about like how they've been trying to conceive a baby, which is why they were there. I was
which like
like,
I thought that was such an odd like jump. Like where did she come up with this? Like I don't
right?
know. I just thought that was so odd that that was where her brain went to, I guess, like in this I don't know, chaotic time or whatever. Like I thought it was really funny that she was like they'll be really uncomfortable about this, so I'll talk about this and they'll just like ignore it and let us go. Which it
Right.
worked, but it was just sort of like really funny that I don't know that that's what she thought to do.
Yes. And I mean, they end up getting attacked, right? So they get away from the ones, but then they're like escorted by the other ones, and they're bad guys. And they Oh, they say like, oh, we need to make sure this was a trap for the villain, and we need to make sure he doesn't have his accomplices. And they try to get like gross with Evie, right? But they're kind of like sleazy with her. And that's kind of like Tristan's aha moment. He's like, I love Evie. Like, like it's like, nope, I do, I know it. Like, I just gotta stop denying it. And but then he says, he's like, I'm not gonna tell her. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I was really
Um,
frustrated with that. I'm like, why not tell her? I don't know.
right,
It's well, and they've been dancing around this like the entire time too. So it's like clearly she has feelings for you too. Like, I don't know, I feel like that would have been pretty obvious to him, especially because like she said, like he was there when he talked about his her dream and stuff. And like she also, even just the conversation that just happened with like pretending that they were like trying to conceive a child, and like she also pretended he was her boyfriend earlier, and like I don't know. I'm just like, you just don't do that with just an employer, right?
right.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, they're frustrating.
It's it's also weird that after the situation kind of clears out and like they get the creature and they're going back to the manor and he goes, everyone's like on lockdown at the manor, but she's like, no, I'm gonna go home. And he's just like, that's fine. And I was like, what? What?
Right?
So Evie doesn't have to go back. And I just think that's like weird. Like she just goes back to her house and like checks on her dad and her sister. And I just like, I don't know. I don't know why. That's just so weird.
Yeah.
And she talks about like how Lissa was like, oh, what's wrong? And she talks about, oh, she can't catch like a mouse, right? Or a rat, I think she says, in the manor, and it's bothering her. And Lissa asks if she's searching in all the right places and also all the wrong places. And that makes Evie wonder about her list, right? And the ledger, she's trying to figure out who the traitor is.
Hmm.
And then she realizes that her father isn't home. And Lissa said that he got up early, feeling refreshed and really great, went for a walk. And I don't know about you, but like, I know we'll get to it eventually, but like, I feel like that should have stuck out and it didn't. Like, I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, that medicine that Tatiana gave to her is working. Their
Must have
father's getting
worked.
better. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey.
Right.
And speaking of Tatiana, when she goes back to the manor, she is kind of like captured, right? By Tatiana and Claire. Um, and she is like taken and they show her like a box, right? And in this, but like the box is instantly like hurting her, right?
Hmm.
And she starts screaming. And in the meantime, we have a flashback to Tristan, and he's like, Tatiana wasn't with them. So was it her that released the beast? And then she hears Evie scream. So he's like freaking out. He rushes to find her. She's in the room with Tatiana and Claire. And it seems that Claire is using the magic right toward the doors. So now Tristan was like, it's definitely Tatiana. His sister's involved. They're all betraying him, right? And they're trying to kill
Hmm.
Evie. And Tristan gets through and he's like, I'm going to get him, right? I'm going to murder my sister, murder his best friend at this point and his sister's
Right.
lover. And Evie stops them. And because everything's happening so fast and it's just like, wait, what is going on? Then
Hmm.
it ends up they were doing it on purpose with Evie's permission. But I was just like, again, like, why is it done
Right.
like this?
Right. Well, it also like why ward the door and stuff, and why not tell him what's
Uh-huh.
going on? And like, I don't know. And also like, yeah, they make it out like she is trapped, right? Like, because she gets like trapped by them, and then they
Right.
like tell her about this, but then it's just like the next thing you know, she's screaming. But she
Correct.
like realized that like they said like we have the dagger and you have to like try to expose yourself to it to like become immune to it essentially. Like you have to be able to like open the box, and like they have the box to shield the dagger, and then she wants to like try to expose herself to it to try to, you know, be able to overcome the dagger. But yeah, I don't know. The whole way that that was written, I was just like going about it this way. Like, could we not just tell him what's going on? And like the fact that they were like trying to block the door and stuff too, like, yeah, it definitely made them seem extremely guilty. So, and again, Tristan doesn't ask questions, right? He's just like jumping to conclusions as well.
Right. And I mean, they're trying to break the curse almost a sense with the blade, right? Like the blade will
Mm-hmm.
always cause her pain, but she can like work around it per se. So that's what they
Mm-hmm.
were working with her. I'm like, there's a better way you could have done that.
Right.
100%.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
So Claire apologizes, right? She goes like does she could handle it better. She also apologizes that she sold the blue ink to the Valiant Guard trader. And Evie asked her, like, why is the ink so special? And Claire divulges that it can be used to make copies, right, of anything written. So
Mm-hmm.
so if someone writes it, someone else can know what was written. And that could be really helpful. And Claire goes to describe being overwhelmed by her favorite patrons. What was the name? East Marigold, who bought the blue ink that
Yeah.
day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of when Evie is stunned, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And Evie's stunned when she hears the name. And there's no like information about it, but like
Right.
something's going down. She's like, wait, what? And she says that the East Marigold was overcome with sadness by his because of his wife loved the blue ink. So that's why he was buying it, right? And so we know we just found out something big. We don't know what
Right.
it is, like, but Evie's
Right.
reaction is just like she's freaked out. So she goes home, and Evie's father is in the kitchen trying and like he's just cooking or something. And
Yeah.
she seems wary, right? And untrusting of her father, who sent
Yeah.
her
Well, and
back
she
her
does come in with she says she has new medicine for him to try from Tiana. So
yes,
she does give him like the medicine and she's like, I don't know, like what's going on. You know, she's kind of wary of him.
right. And she like accidentally like stops in his office, right? Though it's not because it's not like an accident. And she
Hmm.
finds a letter from her mother.
Yes.
And so her mother's not actually dead and like has been writing to her father. And that's when I'm like, oh boy, something's going
Yeah.
on. And I still just didn't see it coming. I don't know, like I just didn't see it. I didn't see it
Yeah.
coming.
Well, and
Um,
even like, so the mother was writing to ask to see the girls because she
yes.
wanted to see them, right? And I was just like, oh, well, maybe the dad's just trying to protect them, you know, like just trying to make sure like what happened to their brother like doesn't happen to them. So yeah, no, same. Like I was just like, oh, he's protecting them. Like he's just trying to make sure that they don't get hurt or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just weird. Yeah. And then so they flash the Tristan, right? At this point, like sometimes the jumping back and forth is just too much.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, something's going on. And now we're flashing to Tristan. And the beasts are coupling and they're trying to make a baby. So he was like dealing with that. And then they find out that the Valiant Guard who bought the blue ink is dead, right? And has he died the day after he bought the ink. So he couldn't have been the one to make the bomb. And so then Claire reveals that, oh, it must be East Marigold, the other buyer, right?
Hmm.
And um, Becky mentions too that Evie was gifted new purple ink from her father, right? After a
Yes.
week after she started working. But
Yes.
obviously, blue ink can become purple with a few drops of red. So, like, right then, I'm like, what? What is going on? It's her dad. Like, what? No, he's sick. Like, how is he doing any of this? And then
Yes.
we flash forward to Evie, right? And Evie's father finds her in the office and he completely changes his demeanor and asks about the letter
Yes.
from the mother and about the blue ink that she just spotted on his desk and about what else like she might find in his desk. She opens a drawer and there it is. There's all the evidence right there. Right? It's all the notes that she's been taking since she started working with Tristan.
Yep.
And it's just mind blowing that it was kind of like him all the time. And he's been working with King Benedict the entire time. He doesn't even have the mystical illness. That made me so
Yes.
mad. I was so
Yes.
mad. I was so you're using your daughter from the start. Like,
Right.
what?
Well, and she's been like trading secrets and like working so hard to like get him this medicine and stuff. And like, also, why is he taking it if he doesn't have it either? Like,
Correct.
why not give it to somebody else or something? Yeah, no, well, and I just like, I did not see it coming, like at all. I was completely blindsided.
And then to make matters worse, he's like, "Oh yeah, I like gave you to the blacksmith." Like,
Right.
what?
I
Not
was
only
so
is she
mad.
like keeping you, well, not really keeping you alive because he's getting all this money still from the king.
Right.
Um, but like she was supposedly keeping them alive and working, and she was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna drop that little bit in." Like, yeah, I did that. I was just, yeah, shocked, mind blown.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, no, I totally was too. I did not see that coming at all. Especially because of their like heart to heart that we had seen the last time they interacted too. Like I just was like, oh, that's nice. Like they have a nice little relationship. And even though he is like not supportive or whatever, like, yeah, no, I did not see it coming at all. But she figured it out because of the like East Marigold like name that was said, because that was a story that her dad told her growing up. And so
Uh-huh.
she recognized the name. And so her dad starts to like try to attack her essentially. And she tells him like that medicine that you took is going to make it so that you're like I think it like paralyzes him, right? Like it puts him to sleep essentially. So he can't do anything.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I,
Which was like so smart on her part too. I was like really glad, but also I was like, why didn't you tell Tristan? Like, if you figured it out, why not tell him?
correct. Why didn't you go right away? Why'd you go home first?
Right. Yeah.
I agree with that.
I
But
mean, I
then
kind of get
obviously
like wanting to confront her dad. Like, I get that, but like, have Tristan out in the, outside, like waiting or
back
something.
up.
You're like,
Yeah. Have him
yeah,
as backup.
some sort of backup, right? Yeah.
Yes. I agree. And then, like, of course, Tristan comes in there and they capture the dad. They take um Lissa back to the manor and they kind of are all I thought this was weird. I don't know about you. I just was like, because they stayed at her house, right? And I'm just
Hmm.
like, can you leave? Can we get out of the house?
Right.
Just like, no, let's go with Tati and Lissa. Like, let's get out of here.
Right.
But then we don't have the moment where like Tristan finally tells the story of how he became the villain, right? He went to live with the king so he could be trained with his magic. The king made him feel special, important, and and the king was so kind to him that like Tristan was really happy. But then he helped him capture the female because he heard that the venom of the baby was supposed to be a magical cure all that helps him cure all. So the Tristan was like, okay, let's capture the female.
Hmm.
But everyone started avoiding Tristan. And when he asked the king why, he told them that everyone was afraid of him, right? The
Right.
king kind of like, in a sense, like turned people away from Tristan.
Right.
And I felt that was terrible. And
Hmm.
Tristan finally like develops his powers and he uses them to kill the guards. But it's just I didn't like
But he
that
was
part.
like,
Like, because at first it was like
they,
great. The king's like this great guy, and then like
yeah,
it's a big betrayal. And like I feel like Tristan had enough betrayal in his life at that point that this
yeah.
just like it just sucked to hear.
Well, and they like trapped him and they captured him and like put him in the like dungeon essentially,
Yes.
and he was there for like
Hmm.
months and months being tortured.
Yep.
Um and like finding that out too, it's like, okay, well now it makes sense why he would like retaliate against the guards as well
Right.
and go against them, and why he has a problem with King Benedict too. So that made more sense, but it also made sense of like how he knew that the king had the female guru as well, because like he just knew that like the female guru would like figure out how to get there and would just like come find her mate. And I was like, how do you know that? So that kind of like, I feel like a lot of things clicked into place at that moment too, where it was like he also felt bad because he had trapped the female guru in the first place, but also there was nothing that could contain her if her mate was in trouble.
Right. It's, I don't know. It was just sad. But
Mhm.
in the long run, the opening up really like bonds them together.
Yep.
And they decide to go back to the manor. They kind of like pack everything up. That Evie's just
Yep.
going to basically like live there now. And on their way back, right? They're going back to, why were they going back to their house?
She left her notebook.
Yes, you're right. They are okay.
She left her
Thank you.
notebook and she wanted to go back to get the notebook because the notebook had all of her notes, and that was what her dad
Yes.
had been using to figure out everything about the villain.
Yes. So on their way back, they get ambushed, right, by King Benedict
Hmm.
and his gallant valiant guards.
Hmm.
So one of them who is the blacksmith, and I knew it. I knew it. I hated that guy. Tristan should have killed him. I was like,
Yep.
confirmation that he should have not made it. Because he betrays them and he's made these special chains for Tristan. So like when the chains are on Tristan, he can't use his power. And the king tells Evie that she was supposed to be like the little savior, like that the blacksmith can have her now and can do what he wants with her. And I'm just like, what? Like,
Right?
no, she got away from him. Um, so the guards like knock Tristan out, the king takes them away, and Evie's alone with the blacksmith and two other guards. And we know that she's going to fight, right? The
Hmm.
but it's just kind of feels like she's not going to make it out of this. They're both going to be captured at this point.
Right.
And we find out she grabs the dagger, right? She grabs the magical blade because it's near enough. She didn't think she could ever use it because that's what's tied to her shoulder injury.
Hmm.
And she just screams out in pain, but she's going to fight, right? And
Hmm.
now the other two guards like start coming after her because she's going to fight with this blade. And one of them kills the other, right? I didn't
Yes.
expect this. I was like, wait, what is going on? I was like,
Right.
oh, it's one of like the people, right? Um, that she knows. And but he just kills the other guard and he dashes away, he runs away. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, so we don't know what happened. I
Right.
mean, the good thing is she ends up killing the blacksmith, right? A
Yeah.
little gruesome because she saws off his head and was
Yes.
like, I am taking this back to the manor and like hanging it on the wall in the
Right.
foyer. And I'm just like, well, good for you for killing your abuser. But I was like, whoa, girl, like you have fully
Yeah.
stepped into like the villain. And I guess that's kind of like how it is. Like she ends it with like, I'm gonna go get him back. Like I will portray if they wanted a villain, they've got a villain.
Hmm.
And I'm going to go save the villain by or become one trying.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, like it's on. She is going to do what she needs to do. Like she's still gonna sweet little Evie, but she's gonna do what she needs to do. She's gonna become that morally gray character and she's gonna save the villain herself.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it ended on such a cliffhanger. I'm like, no, hit me to the
It
next one.
did. literally like immediately I jumped into the next book because I was like, I can't wait. What happens? And I think I like listened to like because I was listening to the audiobook. So I listened to the next one like and I just kept going. Like
Yes.
because I was already like partway through it. I'm like, no, 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 we can't stop here. Just like immediately like got the next one and started going with that one. And
Right?
then like once it sort of like there was like a little breathing point, I was like, okay, now I can stop. But I could not stop at the end of this one.
No, you had to pick it up and you had to be like, wait, what's going to happen? Like, what
Right.
happens? Like, what is all of this? Yeah. You
Yeah.
definitely it was like, I need to figure it out.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you like what you saw today, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, join our fellow community of bookworms, and come back for the second book. Then we talk about Apprentice to the Villain.
Yes. Can't wait to see you. See you next time.
Bye.